First, I want to start by thanking you all for joining us here at Westinghouse Park, which, as you may know, from 1871 to 1918 was Solitude, the estate of George and Marguerite Westinghouse. I'm David Baer, longtime area resident and the initial organizer of the Westinghouse Park Second Century Coalition. Started 3 years ago to recognize the park centennial, our mission is to provide stewardship for the park and to remember the extraordinary individual after whom it was named. I'm pleased to report that with the help of many people here today, we're making considerable and tangible progress towards those goals, as our speakers this afternoon will attest. But first, let me indulge you with a bit of history. We've assembled here on this afternoon to observe and celebrate George Westinghouse's 175th birthday. Born near Schenectady, New York on October 6, 1846, George Westinghouse became a seminal figure of science, technology, and industry. A man who ranks among the most important Americans in a wide range of areas. A man whom, I argue, had a greater impact on the world and history than anyone who ever called Pittsburgh home. As an industrialist, Westinghouse stands among Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Ford, personally founding more than 60 companies in his life, most based on his own inventions. A prolific inventor, he was granted 361 U.S. patents in his own name, an average of one every 7 weeks for 47 years. Already a Civil War veteran, he was just 19 when he patented his first invention, a rotary steam engine, quickly followed by a device to leverage derailed railroad cars back onto the tracks. But the Westinghouse invention that revolutionized the railroad industry was the air brake, which finally gave engineers a quick, safe, reliable way to stop their trains. Marketing and manufacturing his air brake system brought Westinghouse to Pittsburgh in 1868, and then to center his life and his industries here. Over the following decade, automatic signaling and switching systems developed by Westinghouse also revolutionized the safety and efficiency of railroads and made him a wealthy man. But Westinghouse's relentless creativity found many other outlets in addition to working on the railroads. In 1883, his conceptualization and inventions for the safe production, distribution, and use of natural gas, initially drawn from a well he had drilled right up here in his own backyard, he unleashed a whole new form of energy. If that wasn't enough, several years later, systems and equipment invented by Nikola Tesla and industrialized by Westinghouse to generate, transport, and apply alternating current ushered in the modern age of electricity. Westinghouse gave the world the power to do great things. But as much a gifted inventor, he was a visionary entrepreneur. Starting with air brake in 1869, he founded 60 companies, as I said. Many still survive today in one form or another, several as Pittsburgh-based Fortune 500 corporations. Westinghouse companies pioneered radio and television broadcasting, naval power generation, nuclear energy, and myriad other technical developments and products that have defined modern life. Their total impact has never been assessed. But equally important, Westinghouse was also a progressive humanist and humanistic industrialist. He was the nation's first employer to implement a 55-hour work week, 9-hour workday, and a half holiday on Saturdays. Notably, there was never a strike at any Westinghouse company while he was in charge. Samuel Gompers, founder of the American Federation of Labor, once said that if all employers were like George Westinghouse, there would be no need for unions. He was a pioneer in providing quality housing, education, and cultural opportunities for his employees and their families. He paid higher wages to get the best craftsmen and engineers. He had his plants designed and constructed to provide safe working conditions. So revered was Westinghouse by his employees that 15 years after he died, 50,000 of them chipped in to build the magnificent monument in Schenley Park to honor his memory. I will close my remarks today with this remembrance written by Nikola Tesla on hearing of George Westinghouse's death. The first impressions are those to which we cling most in later life. I like to think of George Westinghouse as he appeared to me in 1888 when I saw him for the first time. The tremendous potential energy of the man had only in part taken kinetic form, but even a superficial observer, the latent force was manifest. A powerful frame, well proportioned, with every joint in working order, and an eye as clear as a crystal, a quick and springy step. He presented a rare example of health and strength. Like a lion in a forest, he breathed deep, and with delight the smoky air of his factories. Though past 40 then, he still had the enthusiasm of youth, always smiling, affable and polite. So perfect was his bearing in manner and speech. And yet, no fiercer adversary than Westinghouse could have been found when he was aroused. An athlete in ordinary life, he was transformed into a giant when confronted with difficulties which seemed insurmountable. He enjoyed the struggle and never lost confidence. When others would have given up in despair, he triumphed. Had he been transferred to another planet with everything against him, he would have worked out his salvation. His equipment was such as to make him easily win a position of captain among captains, a leader among leaders. His was a wonderful career filled with remarkable achievements. He gave to the world a number of valuable inventions and improvements. He created new industries, advanced the mechanical turn the page, and electrical arts, and improved in many ways the conditions of modern life. He was a great pioneer and builder whose work was of far-reaching effect on his time and whose name will live long after the memory of men, or live long in the memory of men. So, happy birthday, Mr. Westinghouse. And now, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Vivian Schaefer, who's a stalwart member both of the Point Breeze North Development Corporation and the Westinghouse Park Second Century Coalition. Viv?
Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for turning out today to celebrate the designation of this park as an arboretum. We wouldn't be here without the tireless effort of City Forester Lisa Chaffee, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing and welcoming her this afternoon. But before I ask Lisa to come and speak, Lisa, can you step forward for a minute? And this is going to take our moment. We all put forth some effort to get here. Lisa, I want to say personally thank you on behalf of PBNDC and the neighborhood and all of us for all the work that you and your staff do in protecting and caring for the trees in this park, in this neighborhood, and across the city. You do a remarkable job, and it's very much appreciated. And so, thank you. Please welcome Lisa Chaffee.
I appreciate that. I'm Lisa Chaffee. I'm with the City of Pittsburgh Department of Public Works, and I'm your city forester. I'm so happy to be here today to celebrate the trees of Westinghouse Park. We started talking to David and company a little over 2 years ago, I believe, about possibilities around what we can do to help preserve these beautiful trees here at the Westinghouse Park. And that's evolved into many conversations, which have got us to the point today where we're actually looking at a certification that we got from our ArbNet folks in the Morton Arboretum. So congratulations on that. For those of you who don't know, the certification requires that, there is a concerted effort to maintain and manage the trees on a site, and we're looking forward to working on getting the trees healthier and happier. I want to say that there are 33 trees that are tagged throughout the park today, and I want to thank my staff, Michael Kelly, he's our arborist at Forestry, who also helped with the brochure and putting the information on the trees today. The rangers are here, and if you haven't had a chance to walk around the park today to look at the trees and read the signs and learn about the trees, there's a map that you can pick up behind me. I also want to say, too, that there are a lot of folks here today celebrating, I want to say friends of Westinghouse Park, but also partners with PPC, Tree Pittsburgh, the Friends of Mellon Park Group, the Westinghouse Park Second Century Coalition, who's behind the push for the trees, and then the Point Park folks. And if there's anybody I missed, I'm sorry. But I just want to say that I just wonder about if Westinghouse wandered along this beautiful park, and before, when it was his homestead and his place of thought and his laboratory, and how many ideas might have came out of him sitting under a tree or just looking up at a tree, and hoping that someday this arboretum can be part of a network across the citywide, that we would have different parks and places throughout the city, even private, that could actually be part of a major network here within our city, which would be wonderful. So I'm looking forward to more planning on that event, and there's some other folks that are going to talk to the planning efforts that are underway around the Arboretum in the future and what that can mean for this park in the neighborhood. And I'm hoping, too, that Westinghouse might have celebrated his birthday out here at some point. These trees are witnesses to history, and that's what we have to remember when you're coming through the park, that these trees have been here for a long time, and it's really our duty to make sure that they live longer and have a healthier life going forward. So thank you again for coming out, and enjoy the rest of the day. Take a walk and look at the trees and learn about them. So thank you. I guess I don't have to.
So next I want to bring up Danielle Crumrine, who is the Executive Director of Tree Pittsburgh, who's also been instrumental not only in helping to manage our trees here in the park, but also in the city in general. So Danielle, there she is, right over there. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I just really want to congratulate all of the folks who put so much effort into achieving this really distinguished designation. I like to use the adage, what we don't value, we don't protect, and what we don't protect, we lose. And I think the efforts that go into this park every day, whether it's the City of Pittsburgh Public Works, the neighbors who volunteer, the kids that are right over in Homewood with Operation Better Block, the Junior Green Corps, those kids are over here learning in the park, caring for the park. The countless corporations that come and volunteer in the park, mulching the trees. That's all a testament to the fact that we value this place, we want to protect it. I have 2 children, I live nearby, parks are extremely valuable to me, and I think I can't not imagine the city of Pittsburgh without the beautiful parks that it has. So just congratulations. Thank you to everyone who put so much time and effort, and we look forward to continuing to support the work of all of the individuals involved. So thank you and congratulations.
The Westinghouse Park Second Century Coalition and PBNDC, the recognized community organization for North Point Breeze, have been working together for about 2 years on developing the foundation for a master plan for Westinghouse Park. And it's really the passion and dedication and perseverance of one person who has made it possible for us to get to this point today. A lot of people have worked on it, but I'm sure that all of the steering committee members and the PBNDC board would agree that David Baer is the driving force behind this effort. We truly would not be celebrating George Westinghouse's birthday today or the dedication of this arboretum without David's efforts. So be sure to look him up this afternoon and make him shake a lot of hands. One of the people who's been on the steering committee and involved in helping to plan for handing over the planning process to the city is City Planner Marty Battistone. She has helped to guide us through questions of what's possible and what might be possible if we try hard enough. And we are now handing her that project, and we will continue to work together and to gather community input and to provide for the future of this wonderful park. But Marty is here and has some news to share with us about the master planning process. So please welcome Marty Battistone.
Hi. As Viv said, I'm Marty Battistone. I am one of the environmental planners with the city's Department of City Planning, and part of my job involves parks master planning processes. And I want to thank all of the steering committee, Viv, David, Jim, Seth, and others who had the wherewithal to secure some funding to do what was deemed advanced planning work. And essentially, they brought on a handful of consultants to do some preliminary analysis and planning, such as updating the tree survey, doing some cultural and archaeological assessment, as well as a really in-depth community engagement, and that was done by the Parks Conservancy and Grounded Strategies. And they sent out mailers. They had a really like I said, in-depth online presence as well, and they got over 500 responses from people from Point Breeze North, Homewood, and it really is going to be the jumping off point of when the city takes on the master planning process in early 2022. And so we're going to have this report online. It's called the Advanced Planning Report, and it outlines basically all of the feedback that was received of how people use the park, who feels welcome, and what activities are most common here, and how do we balance all of the needs of a park. And that's what the master planning process will do. We'll look at sort of the highest and best use of all of the space of the park, whether it's recreational, stormwater management, what can we do through park design to make everyone feel welcome in this park? Because that was definitely a large portion of the feedback we got in this initial community engagement. So it will be online on the Engage PGH site if you want to check it out, and it really is it's hugely helpful as we start this master planning process next year. We'll be able to really jump right in, because this is normally what we would have done in the first round of that planning process. So we're really grateful to Viv and David and everyone else for being able to do this work, and we're excited to have such a great group of stakeholders who care about the park and who can help kind of shape its future.
Well, for our next introducer, I would like to, Jim? Our next introducer is Jim Griffin, who's been involved instrumentally with the coalition, and so
I'll fill him in. I'll fill him in, Dave. My name is Jim Griffin. I am a neighbor and stakeholder of this community. I want to thank you all for coming out. It's a glorious day. We couldn't have asked for anything better. I love George Westinghouse and his sidekick, Nikola Tesla, and I love everything about this community. But what this is also about today, and the trees, is also about this community. So I want to congratulate everyone here, because I know you're interested stakeholders like me, and I know that you will do everything in your power to support and protect these trees and this park for the continuation of its life and its development. So again, thank you all today for coming. A long time ago in a previous life, I used to be the director of parks. And so I've seen some parks develop and prosper, and I've seen some parks also deteriorate and need that rehabilitation. So this project was really David's initiative. He cornered me, and that's how I got involved. But I was happy to be cornered, because it's such a great project, and this park is in such great need. But you all have done a wonderful job in maintaining it and preparing it and kind of revitalizing it to the point where we have to move, and we will move forward in its development and rehabilitation. And so I want to thank you also for being such great stewards of this property. One of the other great stewards of this property literally grew up in sight of the place his entire life, either on one side of the neighborhood, on Homewood side, or here in Point Breeze today. He's been a real advocate and a great partner for this park's continued success and our continued success in terms of rehabbing it. And I'm sure he'll be a valuable sponsor and supporter in the future. And before anything further, I'd like to introduce Reverend Ricky Burgess, Councilman for the City of Pittsburgh and this park.
What he was trying to say is I'm old, right? I grew up on Hamilton Avenue, and we would sneak through the railroad tracks on a bad day or walk around either up Dallas or up Lang on a good day. I am old. I remember the old bridge. Anybody here remember the old bridge? Before this bridge, in between the Stone Bridge, there was another bridge, and we would walk on the bridge. In fact, there was a Westinghouse plant on Lang Avenue right across the street from the bridge, and we would stand on the bridge when the railroad came, and the bridge would shake and buckle, and it was like an amusement ride, and we thought we were, being dangerous. And so every time the train comes, we would run to the bridge. The bridge was a little lower than the one is now. I learned to ride my bike here at the park. Mr. Henderson, who was a postman who worked in park relations part-time and in the summertime, taught me to ride my English racer here. And I met a couple of friends here who became lifelong friends. And so I grew up in Homewood, grew up in this park. A friend of mine, Teddy Vassar, whose father, Dr. Vassar, was the principal of Westinghouse and became just a great all-around guy. His son, Teddy, became the director of transportation for the school board. He moved in the 6900 block of Thomas Boulevard when I was in 11th grade. And I said to myself, he took me to his house. It was gorgeous. The neighborhood was spectacular, right down the park. I was 16 years old in 11th grade, and he gave me. We ate potato salad and Kool-Aid, because that's the only thing that was around, right? That's what we had, our little snack. And I said to him, I remember saying to him that day, it was his new house. They had just moved in, and he took me to see it. And I said to him, if I ever make anything of myself, I want to live in a house like this on a street like this. And God's a good God. He allowed me to move right down the street, and I've been there for the last 26 years, a block from the park. I love this place, right? I not only spend my summers here as a kid, but I used to write my sermons sitting on the bank of the park when I first went in ministry. I used to work and do pool inside. One of the members of our church actually was Public Works stationed at the park. I've been around this park, both me and my son, with me first, and then my son later fell on bikes going down that hill. I fell and messed myself up, and my son later messed himself up. And so not only did I learn to ride my bike, so did my sons. I want to thank David and the group for making just their life's effort in many ways, the beautification, restoration of this park. As everyone knows, I am in favor of one day creating a beautiful new shelter. That's been something I've been saying since I've been on council, and hope to maybe accomplish before I leave. I think a great park like this also deserves, and George Westinghouse's memory deserves a great landmark, something of glass and stone and brick that can celebrate how great this park is. And so I'm here. I love you, love the park, love what this beat is doing. They have my resources to I have them. They have my vocal support and my presence. I'm glad to be in the neighborhood and to be friends with all of you. Thank you for this moment of sharing. God bless you.
And now, with perfect timing, let me introduce Mayor Bill Peduto.
I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have a colleague who is a reverend in order to be able to extend a 5-minute speech into 20 minutes. Thank you, Rev. beautiful park. I often say it, and it is so true. And it has such a wonderful history here. I often try to think where his train entered, you know, and what actually is below us, and what he had going and brewing down in that basement that he and Tesla were actually doing down there. And it's right below our feet. The history of our planet, and the history of electrification, and the history of the second industrial revolution, all happening on this one little spot. And now we get to enjoy it as a special spot of nature, a special part of Point Breeze, a special part of Homewood, and a way where communities come together in a way to bring us all together as one Pittsburgh. This little spot of history has a uniqueness to it that is a part of the history of Pittsburgh and a part of the history of this world. And as we say, happy birthday, George, today, and 175 years later, we think about this little spot of history and where he called home, and we think about where this part of history will go into the future. We were honored in order to be able to create the first arboretum, or as I like to say, arboretum if you got 'em, in Mellon Park. And to be able to work with our friends throughout nonprofit community that work so very, very hard to protect and enhance our urban forest. And today we sit at the second arboretum. It's a museum of trees. It's a place where you can come not only to see the beauty of our natural habitat, but to learn about it even further, and to be able to ensure that it's enhanced not just for the next generation, but for the generations that will follow that. And what better park to choose than Westinghouse Park? And this park will be utilized in order to be able to have other parks throughout the city to join it, and in creating arboretums throughout north, south, east, and west of Pittsburgh for future generations. So with that, and the special anniversary and the establishment of the shelter, let us celebrate 175 years of a man who created the shape of the world that we know today. And let us recognize this little special spot that he called home, and that shaped the world that we live in today and tomorrow. Whereas George Westinghouse Jr. was born on October 6, 1846, son of a machine shop owner. From his youth, he demonstrated talent as both machinery and in business. Already a Civil War veteran, Mr. Westinghouse was just 19 years old when he received his first patent for a rotary steam engine. And whereas at age 23, Mr. Westinghouse invented the air brake system, which revolutionized the railroad industry by giving train engineers a fast and reliable way to stop their trains. He went on to innovate breakthroughs that further improved railroad safety and efficiency, drove concepts that made natural gas a newly accessible energy source, and developed the alternating current for generating, delivering, and using electricity worldwide. And whereas Mr. Westinghouse's creativity found many outlets, and he was granted 361 patents in his own name, an average of one every 7 weeks for 47 years, in addition to founding 62 companies that employed thousands in pioneering fields like broadcasting and appliances. And whereas in 1871, Mr. Westinghouse and his wife Marguerite bought a 5-acre parcel along the Pennsylvania Railroad main line, 7 miles east of downtown Pittsburgh, which they later expanded to the 10-acre estate they called Solitude. And whereas following Mr. and Mrs. Westinghouse's respective deaths in 1914, Solitude was transferred to the city of Pittsburgh to be used as a public park on November 30th, 1918, and dubbed Westinghouse Park in order of the Westinghouses. And whereas community support for the park, including from the Westinghouse Park Second Century Coalition, Tree Pittsburgh, and the City of Pittsburgh Department of Public Works Forestry Division, has included engagement and planning for the historic park's assets, maintenance, restoration, and improvement to uphold the park's tagline that history happens here. It is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. And whereas the City of Pittsburgh and Westinghouse Park community are proud to announce the park's recognition as a Level 1 accredited, internationally recognized arboretum by ArbNet in the Morton Register of Arboreta. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, William Peduto, Mayor of the City of Pittsburgh, do hereby recognize the contributions of George Westinghouse to our city, nation, and world, and commend all who have contributed to the improvement of Westinghouse Park, celebrating its recognition as a Level 1 certified arboretum, furthermore declaring Wednesday, October 6, 2021, is Westinghouse 175 Day here in our most livable city of Pittsburgh. Happy birthday, George.
Okay, here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here. Lisa has a few more words to say.
I just want to follow up with the certificate. So Vivian and David, on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh and the Morton Arboretum, I want to present you with this certificate for the Level 1 accreditation. You'll be getting something a little bit more official whenever they send it to us, but for right now, that's that. And I also want to follow up with saying that we do our best at City Forestry and all around the city to keep the urban canopy healthy and happy, but we really need support and love for trees, and it's evident that you have that, so we're able to go forward and do what we need to do to fundraise to make this park better than it is today. And I just want to say thank you, and we appreciate your efforts. So
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hold it up. Hold it up.
You hold it up.
There we go.
Hey, James. That's the big moment here. Okay. Well, before introducing our final guest, I invite you all to come back this Saturday for the main Westinghouse 175 celebration and the running of the Race for the Rest of Us, the What's the Point 5K, a 545-yard dash around the park. And now, finally, we have Ron Weiser, president of Westinghouse Shore, to say a few words, and he's coming up here fast. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, David. And on behalf of Westinghouse Shore, we're excited to be part of today's celebration. When people hear Westinghouse and Shore in the same sentence, they usually go back to the iconic catchphrase, "You can be sure if it's Westinghouse." But our Shore kind of stands for something a little bit different. Our Shore stands for Service Uniting Retired Employees. We're an organization made up of retired employees of Westinghouse and many of our affiliates. And our goal is, one, to honor the legacy of George Westinghouse and stay connected through service. Service to our communities through shared volunteering events, and service to our members through shared social events and member programs. So we are more than happy to be a part of today's celebration to honor his legacy and celebrate his 175th anniversary. Shore currently has over 1,200 members, including spouses, and since our inception in 1989, our members have provided over 1.4 million hours of community service to over 260 different charitable organizations. And you can see some of our members today wearing their volunteer shirts. They wear proudly to honor George Westinghouse's legacy when we do volunteer work in the areas. In addition, our organization has donated over $135,000 over the last 10 years to our Feed the Hungry program. This program provides financial support to local food banks, food pantries, and Meal on Wheels organizations where our members volunteer. So that is a little background on the Westinghouse Shore organization and why we are excited to be part of honoring his legacy today. As Shore represents an organization of employees who have worked for Westinghouse, I'd like to just say a few words regarding the legacy of George Westinghouse from an employee perspective. George Westinghouse once said, "If someday they say of me that if through my work I have contributed something to the welfare and happiness of my fellow man, I shall be satisfied." Those are modest words from the prolific inventor who first harnessed electrical power and then formed 60 companies to develop new ways of using it. The contributions of George Westinghouse both altered the course of history and profoundly changed the way we live and work. I, as well as our over 1,200 members, are just a minute segment of the many thousands of employees over the years who have not only enjoyed the enormous quality of life improvements that George Westinghouse's inventions created, but we also have directly benefited as our careers and our livelihood have also been based on the many businesses formed by his inventions. When you think about it, it's staggering of over the last 75 years the number of employees who have worked for one of his businesses. Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania have benefited greatly from his businesses over the years. You go back to 1904, there were over 9,000 employees alone in the East Pittsburgh Works Complex, and another 3,000 at the Westinghouse Air Brake, and even more employees at Union Switch and Signal, and all the other Westinghouse factories and businesses in the area. The number of jobs created even gets compounded when you think of all those hired in the business to provide parts and services to those Westinghouse businesses. Fast forward to today, over 100 years later, and there's still a Westinghouse Electric Company that is headquartered in Cranberry that employs over 9,000 people worldwide. On top of that, also consider the significant amount of employees employed at other companies who are still producing Westinghouse products as a result of divestitures and spin-offs over the years, like Emerson Electric, Siemens, Cutler Hammer. The number of those still employed as a result of his inventions is still significant. My wife likes to joke with me when we were traveling or just out and about town. She says, "Do you have to know someone from Westinghouse wherever you go?" And I'm sure each of you knows someone who has worked for Westinghouse, or a family member of those, or possibly multiple people in that family that worked for Westinghouse in multiple generations. This speaks volumes to the legacy of George Westinghouse. His impact from an employee standpoint was not only significant from the sheer number of Westinghouse employees over the years, but also from a quality of life work standpoint. He showed genuine interest in his employees' safety and well-being. As was mentioned before, he was credited with providing world-class sprinkler and ventilation systems in his facilities and on-site medical facilities. And it was said that many workers felt safer at work than at home. He was one of the first businessmen to offer accident and sickness benefits to his workers, and is credited with making the first move to the current standard work week by offering standard weekend time off for his employees, giving them a half-day vacation on Saturdays. And in 1930, as was mentioned before, his concern for his workers was further validated when 55,000 Westinghouse workers honored George Westinghouse by contributing their own money to raise funds to build a memorial garden in Pittsburgh Schenley Park. So every one of these Westinghouse employees and their families over the years serve as a great example of the success of George Westinghouse in contributing to the welfare and happiness of his fellow man. So on behalf of Westinghouse Shore membership, I'm happy to be here to honor the legacy of George Westinghouse on his 175th anniversary celebration, and also to be a co-sponsor of the Westinghouse Park .5K race fundraising event this weekend to help support this beautiful park. And on behalf of all Westinghouse employees over the last 175 years who have directly benefited from his many inventions and his kindness and compassion, we say thank you and happy birthday, George.
Not only has Westinghouse Shore supported us, but they brought a cake. And so before we go and cut the cake, and I'd have Ron do the honors there. Are you a cake cutter? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Okay, somebody else? Okay. I wonder if we could just sing a quick round of happy birthday for George Westinghouse. All right, I'll start. Happy birthday to you. I know you all know the song. Birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Westinghouse. Happy birthday to you. Thank you all for coming.